Hello, it's week 3 of season 7 of the Andy Griffith Show. This week's episode title is the Barbershop Quartet. Andy's in a quartet with Dirt and Wally and with Howard Strag as high tenor. And Andy is practicing his part at home, and he tells Ultie and Aunt Dee that they're looking forward to the annual district contest. If they win this year for the 3rd time in a row, they'll get to keep the trophy permanently. And Andy tells Aunt Dee they're all gonna practice at the house tomorrow night. But then tomorrow night, Howard doesn't show up, and the contest is coming up in 2 days. And Andy has called his house twice, and there's no answer. So Andy suggests that Aunt Dee fill in for Howard's part during practice. And Aunt Bee sings, but Bert calls her voice squeaky, and she doesn't take real kindly to that. But then Howard comes in, and he says, "Sorry I'm late, I had to stop by the drugstore." Yeah, he says he had to get some throat spray, 'cause he's been feeling a tickle in his throat. And he tries to sing some, but it sounds terrible. And they all suggest that Howard go home to take care of that throat. And he says it'll be as good as new in the morning. But the next day, Andy calls Howard's office and his house, but there's no answer either place. Meanwhile, Andy's prisoner, Jeff Nelson, who's in jail for picking pockets, is bugging Andy about trying to get time off for good behavior. And Andy says no. And then Andy goes to Howard's house, and he finds him sick as a dog. Howard didn't hear the phone, 'cause he's got a towel wrapped around his head. And he goes to the doctor, and the doc says it'll take him a week to get his voice back. So Andy tells Wally to go find Bert. He says they're going to have to find a new tenor right away. Then he takes supper to his prisoner Jeff in the jail cell, and he really lectures him, because Jeff's been in jail a couple times before. And he tells him to turn over a new leaf and get a job. But Jeff just wants time off for good behavior again. And Andy says no again. He says this is the 3rd time you've been in here, and you're going to serve your whole sentence of 10 days, so you'll learn this time. And then Floyd comes in the courthouse, and he asks Andy whether he's figured out what to do about the quartet yet. And Andy says no. And then Bert and Wally come in, and they all discuss the problem of needing a new tenor. And Jeff overhears all this from his jail cell. And then Floyd and Bert and Wally leave, and they say they'll spread the word that auditions for a new tenor are being held in the courthouse. And Jeff starts singing the tenor part of the song In the Gloaming beautifully. That's the song they're wanting to sing in the contest. And Andy hears it and he likes it, but we can see from his facial expression that he really wants to stick to his guns about Jeff serving his whole sentence and not getting out of jail to sing with them in the contest. And the auditions from everyone else in town are not going well. Jeff is smiling from his jail cell as Dirt and Wally and Andy are trying to decide which of the auditions was the least bad. And they decide it was Terry Plummer. And then Jeff starts singing again, so Dirt and Wally can hear. And they're real impressed, and they want him to be the new tenor. But Andy says no, he's in jail for a crime. And then Floyd pressures Andy later to let Jeff sing, 'cause he heard how good Jeff was too. And Andy says no, we're just going to go with Terry from the auditions. And then the sheriff of Mount Pilot, where the competing quartet is based, shows up, and Andy's never liked him. And the sheriff says he's sorry to hear that you all lost your tenor. Yeah, he rubs it in. He says, "We're going to beat you all this year. That trophy's too big for Mayberry anyway." And then he leaves. And that convinces Andy to let Jeff out of jail long enough to sing in the contest. After, he makes him swear not to try to escape. So they all go to the contest. The Thor singers, Aunt Dee, Ultie, and Howard. And they check in, but their performance doesn't start for another 2 hours. But the guy says, "Please put your costumes on now, 'cause we'd like to take some pictures." So they take turns putting on their costumes in the dressing room, but during Jeff's turn, he escapes through the window. And Andy discovers it, and he goes out the window after him. Meanwhile, Jeff meets up in the woods with a guy he was in jail with up in Bixby. Turns out this guy knows Sheriff Taylor too. He starts talking about how Sheriff Taylor isn't like other sheriffs. He treats you like a person, not a prisoner, and he likes him a lot better. And now Jeff is starting to feel bad about running off on Andy because of what this guy is saying, and it's all true. So he comes back at the last minute. He says he got cold feet about singing in public, and he took a walk to get over it. So they perform, and they sing beautifully, and they win the trophy tournament for victory. And when Andy raises his arm to accept it, we can see that he's handcuffed to Jeff. And later, Howard's throat is better, and Andy and Aunt Bee tell him there's always next year, he can sing then. And then Andy says, plus, there's bowling league tomorrow night, and you're on our bowling team. But then Howard says he has a thumb injury, and he don't know whether he can bowl or not. We'll see you next week for episode 4.